What is going on, you amazing people? Curtis here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the exact sales framework that I teach with an agency closer. I'm going to give it to you guys. You can have it, use it. I promise you're going to be able to collect more cash and have more consistency within your sales process by using this framework. Now, before I dive into this, this is purely for marketing agencies, for agencies in general. If you're a content agency, service-based industry, you're selling B2B, this applies to you. If you're in info, car sales, software sales, this is not going to, well, software sales maybe, but info sales, this is not going to be helpful for you guys. So have a great day. This video is not for you. This is purely for agencies. So, bit of context. My name is Chris Anderton. I am the founder of Agency Closers, and I am also the main closer at Bad Marketing. If you know of Bad Marketing with Eddie Malouf, I basically take care of all the sales on the bad marketing side. Now, to give you some context, 3.5 years ago when I stepped into bad marketing, I was looking for an agency-specific framework that I could use for every single one of my calls, but that also that we could use within the business so that way we had some consistency within our sales process. We hired a bunch of these amazing trainers, the top names in the space. We went through all their programs, and I found out really quickly that all of these big names in the business space teaching sales have a really general framework or a script that they can give to the masses, that for info, for car sales, for software sales, for agency sales, basically anything you're doing selling, you can use their script, which is this general process that you can follow. The problem with that, though, is in the agency space specifically, it's not only very different than selling direct to consumer to D2C, but it's also very specific, right? Selling agency services, high ticket agency services especially, is very, very different when you're selling to CEOs and heads of marketing for large companies. That sales process is very different. Everything about it is different. And so we tried to implement these frameworks for our closers based on all these principles and these big names in the space. I won't say them. And it just was not working. And so basically, based on the 5+ years of experience that I have in closing in the agency space, I built out the agency closer framework. This is purely for marketing agencies to follow. Again, it does work really well for content agencies. We've got content agencies, recruitment agencies using this framework, and it crushes. And this is purely built off my experience in the space for this space specifically. Okay, so before I dive in, I wanted to kind of cover that because it's important when it comes to the process that we follow and why we follow it, and you're going to see that in a second. So in this video, I'm going to give you everything that you can follow to a T. So you can follow this on every single one of your calls. This is meant for a demo call specifically, not like a set call or like an audit call. This is specifically a demo call. And I to this day use this on all of my sales calls. And so we'll walk through it from start to finish, and it goes in depth as possible so that you guys have all the information that you need to be successful using this process. Now, let me just make my head smaller because I'm big and in the way. All right, so let's dive into this. Let me move myself over here. What this is I don't believe in using scripts. The reason why I don't like using scripts is because I've never been successful using scripts. And so I want to be able to use my personality and my unique skill set of connecting with human beings in my own natural way. And so I built frameworks because it allows you to have personality, it allows you to be able to run calls the way that you want to run, but still hitting all the most important parts of your sales process. So let's dive into this. Now, before we get started, the most important part of any sales call is going to be the start of the call, okay? Specifically, the frame that we carry as a salesperson on this call. I'm going to make a whole other video on frame, but basically what this is we want to come in to run this call, lead this call as the pure expert in the room, okay? We want to step into this call as the authority on the call, and we need to have that energy. We need to have that positioning. We need to have when we communicate, the questions we ask has to come across as the expert and the person of authority on the call. And so when I speak about frame, that's what I'm meaning, is the energy and the way that you carry yourself on a call is the most important part, along with conviction and confidence, of course. That all comes together. How do we create that? How do we start a call and be able to showcase that we have authority and expertise? The best way to do that is to have a really strong start to the call, okay? So I have a sales call broken up into a few different pieces. We have the introduction phase. This is where we basically start the call, set rapport, or build rapport, and set a game plan for the call. We go into the discovery phase. Now, in the B2B space, discovery needs to be like, let's say 2/3 of your call is basically going to be discovery. You asking a bunch of questions, which is going to be the chunk of this framework. And at the very end of that, we're going to get into the pitch. And then if you didn't do a good job with your sales process, you're going to go into objectional handling phases at the end, which we're going to talk a little bit about later. Okay, so how do we start our call? We set the frame. In B2B, when we are talking to business owners, leave the small talk alone. An entrepreneur at the highest level does not want to talk about the weather. When you hop on a call with somebody doing $50 million a year or even $1 million a year, right? They are here, they're making a lot of money hourly, and they don't want to waste their time. Nobody wants to talk about the weather. You don't want to talk about the weather, so get right to it. All right. So when I start my calls, I do not build rapport whatsoever. This is very specifically to the B2B space. Do not build rapport. Get right to the point, and they're going to respect you for it. Okay. And it's also going to show that you have a sense of authority because you're protecting your time, and they're going to respect you for that. So another thing before I get into this example is you need to show your status and also create an amazing experience by introducing yourself and your role. The role is really important. Okay. If you are a closer, and you do not have a role, if you have a role like a sales associate, you need to change it. Head of partnerships tends to be the best, in my opinion, when it comes to showcasing status in the agency space, and it makes sense. So head of partnerships. Or if you're the business owner, you need to be saying that you are the business owner, okay? I work, like 50% of my clientele are working with agency owners that are in sales, and they do not like to share that they're the agency owner. They call themselves an account executive. No, say that you're a business owner because this carries weight. This carries authority. When somebody hears they're talking to an owner of a business, they have a different level of respect for you. So we need to showcase that. So every call is, this is who I am. This is my role, and then this is the game plan for the call. That is how we start every single call, okay? What that looks like is call begins, okay? And I'll keep this short so we can get to the rest of the framework. But the call begins. As soon as the unmute comes off of Zoom, we start talking. We do not give them any time to be able to cut us off, interrupt us, ask us questions. We want to get right to the point, okay? So as soon as the unmute happens, hey, how's it going? How's your day going, right? Day's going good. Awesome. You cool if we get started? Or just jump right in. That's it. There's no rapport building whatsoever. It's just get to the point. And so how I carry my introductions is, hey, my name's Curtis. I'm the head of partnerships at Bad Marketing. On today's call, I want to learn as much as I possibly can about your business. And then after that, I'll walk you everything you need to know about our business, packages, pricing. How does that sound to you? Okay. Now, you notice what I did. I introduced myself. I introduced my role. I told them that I'm about to ask you a bunch of questions. Okay. And then I'm going to give you all the questions that, I'm going to give you all the answers that you have and need to know. Okay. The reason why this is so important is we are telling them exactly what is taking place on this call. We're preparing them for that, which what happens is they're now not going to cut us off to ask questions. Well, what do you even do? Because you've told them that you're going to tell them later on in the call. They're also now ready to answer your questions. And most importantly, you have set the tone that this is my call and I'm running it. Okay. You need to do this every single call. Now, I'm spending more time on this because it is extremely important. And if you get this right, your call is going to run so much smoother. In agency closers, I've worked with over 30 agencies in the last couple of months alone, let alone over the last year, over 100. Everybody says the introduction has been the biggest game changer of the call. This is super important, so make sure you leverage it. At the end, when you say sounds good, as soon as they say yes, you have to ask your first question immediately. They cannot have any time to ask you a question at this point. You need to show that you're in control. So how does that sound to you? Good. Awesome. I literally jumped right in. So, and then I asked my first question. Now, I don't like asking, what is your biggest challenge? This is a famous Cole Gordon line, which obviously he's amazing. He's one of I've worked with in all of his programs, worked with some of his top talent, amazing team. However, I do not like this line of what is your biggest challenge? Because one, some businesses don't believe they have challenges and they're not going to want to answer that. Okay. And then another reason is because every other, like that opening line is used by two massive sales trainers. And so tens of thousands of closers are using it. And so when you use it, everybody just automatically knows they're in a sales call. And so I actually don't like using that line. I like using a line of, so let's just give me like 1,000-foot overview of what you're looking to get out of this call specifically. And I don't say about business or what you're looking to do. What are your goals? What are you wanting to get out of this call specifically? And then they're very pinpointed. I want to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. Perfect. Now I know what they want, and we can focus on what they want, and we can start the rest of our call. Now, after this section, we get into our discovery, okay? I encourage you to take notes. What I do is I write down all these sections in my CRM, and I fill out notes underneath each section. Now, when it comes to discovery, some of the principles that I want you to follow is we want to make sure that we are asking questions and not coaching. Okay, so you ask a question, they give you an answer. If it's something that you need more information on, you dig deeper by asking more questions. If it's not something relevant or you get the information you're looking for, the depth you're looking for, you move to the next question. You don't coach, you don't say, awesome, that's great, you guys are killing it. You just get to the right question. Okay. One of the biggest mistakes that I see in the space is that people use too much filler word and they start to coach. We want our discovery to be just almost like interviewing them. We are interviewing them to see if they're a good fit for us. We're qualifying them as a client. And if you have this energy and you run your process like this, it's going to run very, very smoothly, and you're going to build a lot of trust because of it. So first question, I always dig into what does their business do? Okay, this is B2B. We need to understand their business, and we need to show them that we understand their business in a deep capacity. So cool. Tell me a bit about your business. What do you guys do exactly? And then I chunk down, or I ask a bunch of questions based on what their business is about. So cool. What is your best-selling service? What is your best-selling product? If you're in e-commerce, what's your guys' hero product, right? What's your average price point on this? What is the main offer that you're running? I gave a bunch of examples here from different industries just to give you some context, but the goal is to dig into what exactly they do. If you are selling info services as a marketing agency, this is where you need to be diving into their funnel. How are you getting clients? Is it a webinar? Is it a VSL? Is it a challenge? Do you have a sales team? This is where we cover how their business operates. Okay. Now, we don't want to get into the weeds of metrics and numbers here because that is saved later. We're just looking for what exactly do you do as a business. As soon as you get that information, you get to the next question. Now, if you are a marketing agency, this is where we dig into what they're currently doing for marketing. If you're a content agency, this is where we dig into what they're doing for content. Whatever your main service is, this is this core section where we're going to get to know exactly what they're doing so that we have some ammo to close them. Okay, so what are you currently doing for marketing that's moving the needle? Our main channel is Facebook, for example. Okay, cool. How much are you spending on that platform? We want to get to know what they're doing for marketing. What's not working, right? Google's not working. Why? This is a great place to dig into some of the metrics, but we want to save some of those metrics for later. You'll see this in a second. But this is where we want to understand everything they're doing for the service that we are providing them, okay? Specifically for the service that we are providing them. We dig into this, and here's some examples of what that looks like. Cool. Once we have that idea, now we know kind of how their business operates, what specifically they're struggling with, and then also where they're making the most of their money. And it starts to paint this picture of what their business is doing and how they operate. Then we get into metrics. Now, metrics is extremely important, everybody. Metrics is where we figure out how much money we can charge and if they're financially qualified. This is also where we start to ask for bigger retainers. If we dig into metrics and we find out that this company is doing 100K a month and they're making 60K a month in profit, we can ask for bigger retainers. We don't have to be stuck to certain pricing because we have a really clear idea of how much money they're making. Okay. So how I do this is I ask the easiest questions and then I lead into the bigger, heavier hitting questions. Okay. So what is your average leads you get per month, or what is the average of your AOV of your product, right? How many orders do you guys at a monthly basis? How long are customers staying for? These are easy questions then for them to answer. And then I get into the heavier hitting questions. What are your profit margin? Okay. Now this is the key here, guys. If you're asking how much is your service, how many clients are you getting per month, right? We know how much revenue they're making every month because we know their average amount of customers and their average price point. Now, when we ask them, what's your revenue? They're not going to not tell you because they've just told you the metrics for you to do the math yourself. And so what I want to do is go, how many clients are you getting? What is your average price for that service? What's your profit margin? I'm writing this down. Now I know exactly how much money this company is making. Super easy to answer. Cool. How much revenue did you guys make last month? There's not going to be any resistance to this because they've already opened up to the little details that you can just add up to find out the number. And then what I always do is I want to know last month's our revenue and the month before that. So I actually know if they're lying to me or not. Very, very helpful. Once I know this, I only move on when I have a clear picture of how much money they're making. Okay. Then we get into the next section, which is the agency section. Or this could be content agency. This could be a recruitment agency, whatever that might be. Are you currently working with an agency? How is that going? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? What's not working? What is working? What are you looking for in your next agency? This is really important, you guys. They're going to tell you good communication, team that's proactive, team that has higher skill set than my current agency. This is all the ammo we need to use for our pitch. Okay. Really, really important section, guys. If you're a killer, you ask, how much are you paying your current agency? Now we know how much they're making, how much they're paying their current agency. And 90% of the time, you're going to find out that you can just match their pricing or charge more, and you're not going to get any price objections. Okay. This is where price objections are overcome, is the metrics and the agency section. Then we get into the team section. The only reason we ask this, guys, is to figure out if they have a business partner. But again, we need to warm them up to that so we're not creating sales resistance. Do you have a sales team? Do you have a content team? Do you have a management team? Do you have a customer service team? Do you have a business partner? Okay. Ninja move here. If they say yes, do they have equity in the business? Right? If they say no, it's not truly a business partner. Okay. It's a little hack for you guys. Next, timeline. This is to overcome any timeline objections. I want to get started in 2 months. Give me 3 weeks to think about it, right? When do you want to get started on this? Everybody's going to say right now. Now we can keep them accountable to that at the end of the call. Now, to finish off our discovery, okay, we need to ask them their goal first and then where they're at right now to create a gap, okay? We want to hype them up. What are you guys looking to achieve? We want to get to you 200K a month. Why is that important to you? Right? What are you going to do when you get there? How long have you been trying to get there for? Right? We have a clue. We paint this picture of their heaven of where they want to end up, and then we bring them back down to earth. Where are you guys at currently? And we already know, but we ask again. Yeah, we're at 50K a month. Gotcha. How long have you been here for? 6 months. Really? We create doubt around where they're at right now, and then we pivot to our, what I call their transition period, or you can do a recap, whatever you prefer, but I'd like to do transition period, which is, thank you so much for telling me everything that we're covering, everything we've just covered in great detail. I can absolutely help you. We actually, and then I like to give like a short story of somebody similar. So we actually just took another brand to X, Y, and Z number over the last 4 months that is actually in your space. Builds a lot of trust, builds a lot of rapport, flexes a little bit, and then we get into our pitch. Now, before I get into the pitch section here, guys, how are we for time? Before I get into the pitch section here, guys, this is something that is so important about this entire process. Discovery is where we build all of our trust. Discovery is where we overcome all of our objections. Discovery is where we find out how much money we can charge. If you half-ass discovery, you will miss this deal. You will not close a deal. The reason why this is so important, if you look back at all these subjects, I hit every objection that you could potentially have. Your mindset needs to be, I'm going to cover all of my objections before I get to my pitch, so that when I drop my price, I know what's coming, or I can overcome it completely before. So if you look back at this, right, we know where they're wanting to go. We know when they want to get started. We know if they have a business partner or not. We know if they're working with an agency and if they're in agreement or not. Right? Now we can avoid an agreement objection. We know if they have the money or not. We know if their business is a good fit. We've fully overcome any objection that could come our way from discovery, and it's depth. The key, I want to reiterate this finally, guys, is that the better questions that we ask, the more trust we build, and the more authority we have, the more of an expert they see us as. Why is this important? When they are shopping around to other agencies, they're going to be looking at the service that you provide and your price point, okay? 90% of agencies suck at sales. And so they're going to be thinking of that agency based on deliverables. They offer this for this price. When you go into great detail and they feel heard and they feel that they can trust you and you showcase that you are the best at what you do, they're going to be thinking about how you guys are the experts, not about deliverables. That is the most important part, okay? You need to hear that because it's so important. Now, when we get into the pitch, which I'm going to talk about the framework for the pitch in a second, it's not about what we're doing. We can have a really simple pitch. Yeah, we're going to run your Facebook ads or Google and help you with your CRM. That could be the pitch, because we built so much trust and authority in our discovery that we don't need to flex anything in the pitch. We just need to give them the details roughly, make sure they don't have any questions, and then close them. That's literally that simple. So discovery should be 70% of our call. Our pitch should be 8 to 12 minutes long is what it should be. That's super fast. 8 minutes, very, very quick. And then we get into the post phase. So what I do my transition to get into the pitch. Now, this is a principle for you guys. I got this from a gentleman named Corey Jackson, absolute lethal in sales, Silverback certified is a program that he teaches. Killer, one of my mentors. So this is the framework that he gave, that he's built, that I use with everybody. All right. What this looks like is we want to take whenever we have. Let me back this up. As an agency, you're offering specific services. You should have pillars around those services. So, for example, if you're a local agency, you want to be talking about your team first and foremost. What is unique about you guys? What your experience has been? Who you are, right? The next pillar should be the main service that you're providing. So, like, for example, Facebook ads or traffic, right? CRM management could be another. Data and CRM management could be your other pillar. So those are your 3 pillars, okay? In each pillar, we want to go through this framework right here. This is super important. This is going to be a game changer for you guys. We start the pillar with, hey, remember how your last agency was spread thin and you guys had a really bad experience? Well, what we do is we have this specific team structure, right? And why we do that is so that we can get to end result, okay? And how we go about doing that, which will get you to your desired state. And so what's happening with this framework? We're taking them from their current state where they're in pain, and we're giving them a roadmap of how we're going to help them solve that pain and get them to their goal using our process. We're now making a custom presentation for them. Remember how you're stuck at 50K? Well, how our team operates and how we're structured and what we do will allow you to get to 200K because of that. Does that make sense, right? Really important. If you guys need more support on this, shoot me an email. We can go over it in more detail, but I'll move on. After every pillar, we must check in and tie down, okay? I do not like, do you have any questions? Never say that on your sales call. Why? When you say, do you have any questions? You're priming your prospects that they should have questions. So when you're getting, I need to think about it, objections, of course you're getting those objections because you're telling them that they should be thinking about it. They should have questions. We need to get a yes out of them, not a no. No, I don't have any questions. Everybody's going to say no. So what you do is go, does that make sense? Does that make sense? Everybody's going to say, yes, that makes sense. And I would encourage you to tie them down a second time. So for example, does that make sense? Does this make sense for your goals? Yes, it does. And sometimes they'll be like, yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for. Does our team structure make sense? Yes. Right? We've gotten tied down. We got them to buy into that pillar. We move on to the next one. We go through the framework again. We tie down again. Does that make sense? Yes. Now, by the end of the pitch, 4 times, sometimes 6 times, they've told us that everything we're saying makes total sense to them. Okay? Now, this is where we'll come back to this in a second. Now, this is where the magic happens. This is my framework when it comes to closing bigger deals. You guys should have a tiered pricing structure. You should have a really high price, the price that you want to close your prospects on, and then you want to have a downsell price that, like, if they can't afford it, you go to that price. How we operate is that when we drop price, we summarize everything we just said. So you're going to get all of these things, and the price is going to be, and you drop your highest price point. I would suggest that you start with this package. It's going to be $30K a month, whatever the price point is, $10K a month. $5K a month. Maybe you charge $1,500. You're going to ask for $2,500 a month. This is everything that we do for $2,500 a month. You sit and be quiet. Hear them out. If they do not have a price objection, you close them at that price point. If they have a price objection and it's too expensive for them, you then go, no worries at all. We have another option I think would make more sense for you. And then you go to the price point that you originally are charging. Why is this so important? 9 out of 10 calls, or sorry, not 9 out of 10 calls, maybe 2 out of 10 calls will go with that higher price point. And now we're closing the same service at a higher price point, and we'll be able to create growth with the same lead flow, the same amount of calls, but we're closing bigger deals. And what will happen is you're going to start to get comfortable asking for more money, and you're going to start to see that more people are closing at that higher price point, and then we can make another price increase. And we keep going until we find this threshold where people are willing to pay way more money than you think. Okay. So you always drop the biggest amount first, and you have to hear what they have to say. If they're like, oh, it's a bit more expensive, talk to them about it. Why is it a bit more expensive? Why do you think that? Get them to tell you that this isn't going to work for them, and then you lower your price. Okay. Or another hack here for you. If you get to the price drop and you know, based on the metrics, we know they can afford it. So when we're dropping our biggest price point, there shouldn't be a price objection now, because they know that we know how much money they make, right? So they can't get away from it. If they're like, oh, we can't afford that, and you're like, you guys are making $60K a month and this is only $5K a month. Well, am I missing something? Right? You're not going to get a price objection because they've already told you how much money they're making. So anyways, if for some reason they don't have as much money as they should have, and they can't afford the bigger price point, and you know that, use it as a trust builder. So what I do is I'll go, hey, Mr. Prospect, so we have this ideal package. I suggest that you guys do not work with us on this package. It doesn't make sense for you right now, but eventually it will. This package is $6K a month. We're telling them they shouldn't do it. And so now they're going to go, okay, this person's being like trustworthy. They're telling me that I shouldn't give them more money, right? I can trust this person. And then you drop the middle price point. Where you should be is this. So we're still making them hit the ceiling of, oh, they have this expensive thing, but he's telling us we should go with this cheaper package because it makes more sense for us. It builds a lot of trust. It builds a lot of authority as well. And then you close them on the middle package. Okay. Now, that's all I'm going to say. If you did your job with everything we just discussed, you will not have an objection. The only objection that will come up is logistical things that you can deal with. And that's it. Now, some free game for you. How I like to ask for a close is, it sounds like this makes sense for you guys. Would it make sense to get started today? They've told you it makes sense 6 times through discovery, through price point, through pitch. So when you sounds like this all makes sense for you guys. Yeah, it does. So does it make sense to get started right now? Easy yes for them. And then you just assume they're going to, okay, cool. So it sounds like this makes sense for you guys. Cool. Let's get started. They've told you this to make sense a bunch of times. Assume the close. It's the easiest close that I've been able to find. Okay. You can also use the would you be opposed to from the Alex Ramosi line, but I prefer it sounds like this makes sense. Does it make sense to get started today? Now, for some reason, if you can't close them, and there's actually a legitimate reason why they can't close right now, we always must book a second call no matter what. You're either booking your onboarding call or you're booking a follow-up call. That is it. There's no other option. They must stay on your calendar. If you are in e-commerce or higher ticket services, okay, selling like 5, 6, 10, 15, 20K a month packages, I would suggest having audits. And if for some reason the person cannot close on that call, you pull your parachute, I call it, and you get them hooked with an audit. How about this, right? You guys have to think about X, Y, and Z. You have to wait till you get X out of the agreement you're currently in. Let me run an audit for you guys. We'll have a second call in a week, and we're going to go over everything that we feel needs to be changed within your account to show you how we think and how we work, right? They're going to say yes to that every time. You get access to their Meta account, Google account, CRM, website, whatever it might be. Your team does a detailed audit, and then we have an audit call. And now when we do that audit call, they know the price, they know deliverables, they know how our team is structured. And so at the end of that call, there's no reason why they can't close. Unless, of course, they're stuck in the agreement for 3 months, and that's a different story. You should always have a game plan for your prospects regardless so that you have a reason to follow up with them. All right, so I know that was really quick, through a lot of detail. Obviously, there's a lot more nuance to this, but this is the basic framework that you should follow when it comes to how you're running your calls, demo calls specifically. If you follow these to a T, you will see deals close. Now, this is a kicker, guys, though. This is what creates consistency. When we follow this framework on every single call, right, we are now in control of our sales process. If you're getting a price objection, what does that mean for you? You didn't dig deep enough into metrics and revenue, the metrics section of this call. If you got a partner objection, you didn't go deep enough into the team section of this call. If you got a timeline objection, you didn't ask about timeline. If you got an agency objection, you didn't ask enough questions about agency. So your next call, you can now course correct and you can go, okay, I'm going to start digging deeper into the agency section. And this allows you to keep yourself accountable, especially like, for example, if you're not in a group like Agency Closers where you're getting call reviews and you're an agency, you're not getting call reviews, then this allows you to course correct. Okay, my next call, I'm going to dig really deep into the metric section so I can understand their business to make sure I don't get a price objection. Okay, it keeps you accountable. This allows us to course correct before we create a big pattern. What sometimes happens is that we take 3 or 4 calls and we're getting the same objection and we're like, why is this happening? We have no idea because we don't have someone doing call reviews for us. We don't have a manager overseeing us. We don't know what's going on. And so what ends up happening, what the little tag coming out of my hat. So what ends up happening is that we can't course correct. And so we end up losing deals. And so if at the end of your call, you get an objection, you go, okay, I clearly missed something here. My next call, I'm going to dig deeper into that section. Now we fix the problem. And so instead of having 3 calls in a row where we've not wasted, but like we've gotten price objections, we now only had 1, and the next 2 calls, we don't have that problem anymore. So this is why this is so important. So I encourage you, don't change the framework because it works. Take this framework, adapt it to your agency, write it down in your CRM on every single call. To this day, I've generated 8 figures in sales for our agency, and I still to this day follow this framework exactly on every single call. Because it doesn't matter how good you are, you have to keep yourself accountable to your process. And when you can create this process and it's replicatable, we now have consistency, which means you start closing more deals more often. And the kicker here for you agency owners out there, when you hire a closer, they now have a system that they can follow to replace and replicate exactly what you're doing. And now you can step away from your agency. So I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any specific questions about this framework, obviously this is general information I'm sharing with you. If you need help implementing this, if you have more questions, reach out to me on Instagram at Kurt Anderton. I'll have it in the description down below, and I can go over any questions that you have. If you have any questions about agency closers, which is basically my coaching and management solution for marketing agencies, I only work with marketing agencies. 50% of the group is agency owners, where I do call reviews and one-on-one training with you on your sales process and then help you replace yourself with a closer. Or you already have an established agency and you're looking for like some support. So I can come in and do part-time management for you or fractional management for you, whatever you need, just let me know. Shoot me a DM, happy to give you more information. And if it helps, it helps. But hopefully this is valuable to you guys. If you need anything, please let me know. I appreciate you and I really appreciate your time. Happy closing. Go collect some cash.